Okay, so everybody have a chance to get your pens? If so, put yes in the chat. This is definitely one that you're going to need pens for. I tend to be pretty interactive inside of these webinars, and so the more interactive you are back, great. I love it. Camera's on, mic's on, ready to go when you are. If you're in a position where you can't have the camera on or the mic on, completely understand. And I'm going to rely on some others to really carry some weight here. There'll be a few quotes that pop up, and when that happens, I'm going to ask some of y'all to read them, because as much as I like my own voice, my wife tells me I need to shut up sometimes, and so as a result, like it seems like a good time to create a pause and just have some others read some quotes. So in the meantime, if you came today to learn about revitalizing your routine, you're in the right class. If you were coming for our leadership mastermind, that was Tuesday, and it's going to be again this next Tuesday. So put it on your calendars if you think becoming a better leader is something that you'd like to do. Shar and I host that every Tuesday morning in order to help each of you grow your companies and your leadership skills. So looking forward to that for sure. And so let's keep going. We're going to take a small pause to introduce some of our team. Jose and Maria are two of my partners inside of this company. We're the franchise owners for Cyberbacker, Maryland, DC, and Delaware. And so we get to have some fun helping local businesses connect with the other people on the call. So Shar, take it away. Why don't you introduce yourself?
Alrighty. Hey everyone, good afternoon. I'm Shara. I work closely with Jeff Kun and together with a Cyberbacker Maryland franchise. I'm actually the growth backer. My role is to help clients evaluate their business and to help them figure out the most important thing for them to be able to achieve their goal by the end of the year. So basically, Cyberbacker is actually like providing support and services, admin, and anything like that. But yeah, I help clients to figure out to help for them to be able to achieve their goals, basically. Thanks, Jeff.
Love it. Thank you. I like to say she's my right hand because, well, actually, I like to say she's the tip of the spear because she actually gets everything rolling over here. Irene, on the other hand, is the one that really helps to pair people up and make the magic happen as well. So Irene, tell us what you do.
Hi, Jeff. So, hi, everyone. My name is Irene. I'm part of the career team here in Cyberbacker, Maryland. So, as a career backer, I'm helping to find the right talents and partner them with clients who share the same values. That's it from me.
Thank you. Thank you both. And I am, as I mentioned, one of the franchise owners. Just to give you a really small history about myself, I worked my way up through retail and restaurant. I worked in retail and restaurant for over 25 years. Through companies such as Chuck E. Cheese, GameStop, Tesla, Vivid Smart Home, and their channel partnerships, and had an opportunity inside of that to work in some really, really major brands that everybody here on this call has shopped in at some point or another. And through that, I realized a few things. And one is systems and processes really matter. And if we can figure out a great routine to get into that, then we can really achieve some great success. In fact, I had a business owner one time actually tell me, hey, Jeff, I'm successful and I don't have a routine. I don't have a morning routine. I was like, dude, that's impossible. Like, I don't know what you're talking about. He's like, well, I have kids and my kids drive me crazy and they're always doing this or always doing that. And I'm always going this way or always going that way. And depending on what's happening with the kids each day, like that's what my day looks like. And then I get into work and do my business. And I was like, well, that's your routine, right? Literally, whether you know it or not, like that craziness is still your routine. Following those kids around and doing what they do, if we were to track that over a long enough period of time, we're going to notice a pattern. And so everybody here that registered and said that they wanted to come should have received a little homework sheet as far as tracking your routine, because again, that's how we know what works and what matters. So if you got that sheet, pull that out. In the meantime, if you didn't make last month's session, Unlocking Financial Freedom, feel free to tell Shar in the chat that you want to get a copy of it. That was Jose presenting on what you can do to prepare to be financially free. So let her know and we can get that shared with you. This is that pre-work homework that you should have seen. And inside the pre-work homework, you would have seen an opportunity to track your morning, your afternoon, your evening, and your nighttime routines. So we know our day splits. Now, listen, some of you all work different hours, and some of you do different things during those hours. So we can all agree that whether it's the morning or the first thing that we do when we wake up, that could be considered our early routine, right? So if you need to go through the left-hand side and scratch it off to make it look and work for you, that's fine. I literally made this sheet up myself. And so I don't have any problem or ego around you changing it, all right? So who had a chance to scribble onto this sheet some over the past few days in order to get prepared for the class today? Either throw yes in the chat or come off mute and tell me what you found out about yourself. Well, if you didn't have a chance to track, this is what I want you to know. This sheet is perfect to figure it out. And we're going to go through some things today that you're going to need to look for, okay? And as you're going through your day and identifying the steps in your routine, we're going to identify some key markers today that as you begin to notice what you do regularly, you're going to also start to figure out what it is that cues you into those routine steps. The things that happen before the thing that you do, okay? Because they all go hand in hand. And as you're trying to plan out a great routine for yourself, either through work or through your personal life, you're going to start to see the things that you're reacting to that we can start to control in order to really take control of our calendar and our schedule and build some really good habits. So this is usually a part of a 4-hour habit workshop that I do. If you love what we go through today, feel free to reach out and we can talk about bringing the workshop to you. And because it's part of a 4-hour workshop, we're really gonna zoom through a lot of this today. So feel free to throw some questions in the chat. Feel free to come off a mute and ask some questions. And this is gonna be fast. Are you guys okay with fast? You guys okay with a lot of content in a short amount of time? All right, I took a bunch of stuff out, but it's still gonna be fast. Great. Perfect. All right, so here we go. First off, there's actually 4 books that I took this from, and I couldn't put them onto the slide in a pretty way. So the one thing, Atomic Habits, 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, and then a new one that came out just last year by Katie Milkman it's called How We Change, right? And so if you want some great substance and some source material to read through and really dig more into your habits, this is also another way to do it. Some of you might have some of these books already, in which case you've probably heard 1 or 2 of the things that I'm going to say today. So the first thing, though, that I want to ask everybody is, why are we talking about habit change right now? Like, dude, it's not even middle of August. It's barely middle of August, right? Like, why habit change now? What is it that brought you onto the call to talk about routine change and habit change today? You can throw it into the chat, come off mute and answer. Okay, something that you've been working on for a while now. Great. Good. Hopefully you can either share some best practices you've come across as we continue to go, or you get a good golden nugget to help push you over an edge here. Is there anything specific, Nicole, that you're trying to work into your routine or into your habits that you haven't been able to do yet?
Yeah, sure. Maybe unmuting might be easier. Yeah, so one of the things I've noticed is I followed the, I think it's Atomic Habits, where you like track your routine.
Yeah.
And I noticed that there's a very big difference for me between a good day and a bad day, or like how I'm feeling. I'm not really sure what the right good or bad day is. So on a good day, I'll do all the right things, right?
Yeah.
And then on a bad day, I won't even get started on the first one. So it's like I either do it and I do everything great, or I do nothing. And there doesn't seem to be like a good in between, or like, how do I... So my question, or one of the things I'm hoping here, is like to have a habit change, so that even if I do see, hey, this is a bad day, how do I get myself back on track when I'm not feeling like it, right? Because when we're feeling good, we get everything done.
Sure.
But that's not where the hard things happen. So I'd love to hear your insights.
Yeah, absolutely. And I will definitely get into that. And that gave me a little bit of tingles, because actually the book that last one I mentioned, the Katie Milkman book, talks about that. I actually, if anybody's ever seen a 66-day challenge calendar before, I reinvented the 66-day challenge calendar because of the other book that I read. And one of the things, and I'll hit this on you real quick, because I think that's a super crucial thing, and we can think about it the longer that we go. One of the great things that Katie mentions in the book is forgiveness over messing up, right? Like in the 66-day habit calendar, there's no forgiveness. If you miss a day, you start over. that's kind of demoralizing, right? It's a calendar that literally you check off every single time. And this is going to be a handout that Shara sends when we're done today, my new 77-day habit calendar. And so, but basically you check it off every single time that you complete a day that you did the habit correctly. And as you're trying to make big habit changes in your life, we know, and I'm giving a little bit away, but as you start to make big changes in your life, we know that tracking matters. We know that a certain number of days committed to it will make it matter. But a lot of times when you miss it, it's demoralizing. And when you get demoralized, it's easy to revert very quickly back into the old, right? And so another thing brought up in this book is, again, this is why we're talking about habit change now. The studies show that it's easier to change habits when there is a natural change that's already occurring in your life. And so this is one of those natural changes right now, especially for parents. And even if you're not a parent, that transition from summer to fall, right? Like the actual calendar transition is later in September. And we all tend to see that Labor Day holiday as being a transition. As we move between August and September, it tends to be a natural calendar transition from one season to the next. Name another transition that most people try to start habits on, or many people will work to do a new routine or a new habit. What's another day? It's an easy one. There's 2 days I'm thinking of right off the top of my head. Mondays would be good, right? Like I'm going to start on Monday, right? I'm going to start right after vacation. I'm going to start eating better, right? Like, yeah, tomorrow for sure. How about New Year's Day? Right? How many people have said, I'm going to try to do this new thing on New Year's Day? I'm going to work to do my New Year's resolution, right? And how many people stick on their New Year's resolution for the whole year? Not very many of us, right? We go a couple of weeks and then we shift back. Also, your birthday. A lot of people say, I'm 40 right now, and now I need to get better. I need to get healthier. It's time for me to change. It's time for me to start eating healthier, exercising more. Other good times to do it, again, as we start going into the summer, we realize it's time to get back into our bathing suits. We might have a healthy shift or a healthy habit change. When we change jobs, a lot of people have quit smoking when they change jobs because their routine just changed dramatically. They don't smoke they're not hanging out with the same coworkers that were smoking, etc. It's a great time to make healthy habit changes when you're able to reinvent yourself walking into a new environment, right? And so this is one of those times. This is a calendar shift. It's a new quarter. It's a new season. It's a new time for you to be able to track your routines, identify what it is that you want to change. And we're going to hit on some pieces that might help you go as we go. So first off, somebody jump in and read this quote for me.
We are what we repeatedly do. Excellence, therefore, is not an act, but a habit.
This is one of my favorite quotes. This is actually on that routine tracker. Favorite quotes in life, not just surrounding habits. I think this is a freeing quote for me. I don't know how you all feel about it, but there's a book. I tried to explain this concept to my kids a while ago, especially my older kids. My younger kids, by now, they're just able to watch me do it. But there's a point in time where my family, my ex-wife and others, don't do everything perfect, right? And they looked at me and they're like, Jeff, how come you win all the time? And I was like, well, because I know I'm going to, right? They're like, what? That doesn't make any sense. And then a book came out called The Achievement Habit. I don't necessarily recommend the book, by the way. I don't necessarily think it was a great read, but the first chapter was good. So if you can find it and want to download it for cheap on Kindle or something, go for it. The first chapter goes into this idea, which is you can create a habit of success, believe it or not. You can create a habit of winning. You can create a habit of achieving. You can create a habit of excellence. You can create a habit of building new good habits. It's kind of weird and interesting, but just like with any other thing, there was a point in our life that we didn't do it well. And once you start figuring out how to do it well, you're able to learn and keep doing it better as you go, right? So name something that you haven't done well in the past that you can do very well now without even thinking about it. You throw it in the chat. Read, Great. Yeah. None of us read when we were born. That's a perfect one, right? Like, I always like to go to walking. There was a point in time when none of us could walk, right? And then we learned to walk, but we didn't even do it well then. And then for a while, we got really good at walking. And probably in our youth, we were able to do some really crazy things along with our walking, some leaps and some tumbles and some that most of us don't even try now because we realize we can get hurt. But if we had kept doing those crazy things, guess what? We probably still wouldn't really be getting hurt. We'd be able to still do them really well. But at points we move into good habits and then we move out of good habits. There's an ebb and a flow. There's a season to a lot of things in our lives. And if we can, again, figure out where we fit these into our routines, we can keep the good things in and push the bad things out. Is that fair? Okay. Riding bikes is another one of those things, right? Like at some point in time, none of us rode bikes and all of us can do it now. Making cold calls. How many of you ever hated making cold? How many of you enjoy making cold calls now? Oh, see, nobody, right? so maybe that's something nobody ever gets good at, except Frank, right, Char? Anyway, so to that extent, perfect. Let's jump into it then. What we found out is reading through a lot of these books, how many days does it take to form a habit? Who knows? Who knows? How many days does it take to form a habit? 21, right? I mean, right? Isn't that what everybody says? 21? Nah, all right. Anybody that's ever read any of these habit books understands that that's a myth, right? 21 is just, we don't even know where that came from. In fact, the current going ratio, so to speak, is 18 to 254. Between 18 days for an easier habit and 254 days, that's the range for creating a long-lasting habit in your life. The longer days are the harder habits, right? There's something that, like, I do videos every single day, and I gave myself a challenge to do videos for like 3 months straight. And at the end of the 3 months straight, like the 3 months stopped, and I'm like, okay, great, I did it 3 months straight. I completed my challenge, and I went right on with my life, and I didn't keep making videos. I was like, wait a minute, wasn't the point of doing this to get consistent at something that was hard for me? And so all of a sudden I realized, well, then I guess that habit was not 90 days, right? I guess that habit was going to take longer. I've gone, how many days now? It's got to be about 500 days straight of making video. And guess what? Now, if I don't put out a video that day, it feels like I'm missing something. So for you, how many days do you need to do something in a row, especially the habit that you're working to form, until it feels like when you don't do it, you're missing something, right? My wife and I went out for dessert last night because our kids were sleeping somewhere. And like, we both got a small dessert. It wasn't too long ago. We both would have gotten a large and wish we had more at the end of it, right? And at the end of our small, we were like, well, that felt like too much. And so after a while, you start to shift your identity into the new thing. And again, the average that some people threw into the chat was 66, right? Like, this is the actual average for creating a new habit. And that does take us into this atomic habit. So Nicole, you may have seen some of this before, and anybody that's read that book. So there's a habit loop. The habit loop actually, before atomic habits, was known as the cue, the response, and the reward. James Clear added in craving, and I really, really appreciate the fact that he did that, because that takes us into Victor's Man's Search for Meaning, in the sense that there is a pause in which we're allowed to make a decision, right? 7 Habits of Highly Effective People talked about this too, right? You're allowed to be proactive by pausing before you react. And so the cue gives us a scenario in which we feel something. The craving is that feeling, and then we respond to the feeling, typically to do what? Like, we get the cue and we respond, and our response is to do what?
Respond.
So we respond in order to feel what? To feel better about ourselves, to feel rewarded, right? And so we want to do actions that help us feel better. So setting up a reward system is crucial. So let's give a little bit of an example, all right? Something that everybody can associate with. So I get home at night, I walk into my dark house. What's the cue?
House.
Dark house, right? I'm walking into a dark room. So what's my craving?
Light.
That's right. I want light. I don't like it dark. This doesn't make me feel very comfortable. Like, I'd much rather have light going on. Now, some of us would rather sit there in the dark. Don't raise your hand. We don't need to talk about that right now. That's a different story. So now, once we want light, what's our response? What do? We know we walked into a dark house. We want light. What do?
We turn on the light. We hit the light switch.
Love it. Thank you, Sharina. That's right. We hit the light switch. And then what's our reward for flipping the light switch on that makes us feel better?
You can see.
Let there be light. We get light and we're happy. We can see, right? There we go. Love it. Okay. So that's a really basic habit loop. Do you see that? Most of us walk in and we don't even think about turning the light on. We walk in, we flip the light switch, right? It just is what it is. We don't even have to think about it. It's non-voluntary. It's muscle memory. We don't even have to look for the light switch in a home that we've been in quite a few times, right? You know, especially for the realtors in the space. How many times have you ever walked into a house where you don't know where the light switch is? And how long does it take you to find it before switching it on? But in the places where we go regularly, we don't even look. We just reach over, hit the light switch in the complete dark. Habit loop, muscle memory, crazy. Crazy how that works. That's how everything works in life. Okay, great, Jeff. Thanks for pointing that out. So how do we change that habit? Talk to me. What do we need to do to change the habit? And here's another question for you. Do you really even want to? So, like, sometimes we say we want to change a habit, but we haven't actually gotten that into our core yet. We haven't figured out deep in our core that this is something that we really want to change. If you use the routine tracker, the column on the right says what? Do you remember? I'll give you a little hint. The column on the right says what? All the way on the right, Miggy. But that was a good guess. Keep it or delete it. There we go. And so if we were looking at the personal benefit, to Miggy's point, and it wasn't something that's personally benefiting us, and everything does, by the way, because remember, it's a habit loop. Everything provides a reward. It might not be a healthy reward, but everything has a benefit. There's a reason you do what you do, and your body thinks there's a benefit to it. If your body didn't think there was a benefit to it, if your brain didn't think there was a benefit to it, you wouldn't be doing it, right? Like, your brain never just says, "Oh, I should drink poison." It just doesn't happen, right? And so you continue to do actions that you have told yourself has a benefit. I get happy when I eat a big tub of ice cream, right? And so I love eating pizza. You know, and do I love the pizza? Do I love eating pizza? I mean, what is it about that scenario that is a personal benefit to me? We definitely need to figure that out. That's definitely some mental pieces over to it. And so what you should identify your benefit inside of the action that you're doing. And whether you found a benefit or didn't find a benefit, is this an activity in your routine that you want to keep or delete? If it's a keep, put a little plus next to it. If it's a delete, put a minus next to it. If you don't know, just keep it blank until you figure it out, right? Like, and that's okay. And so inside of, do I really want to change? How strong do you feel about those minuses? How strong do you feel about the items in your life that you put down that you want to delete? So something I actually took out, but this always comes to mind when I teach this portion of the section, is there's a Nike ad campaign for Just Do It. It used to be called No Finish Line. And that Nike ad campaign always really reaches out to me because I used to love to run in high school. I shattered my leg a little bit after that. I still love to run. I just can't do it as much as I used to want to. And that's maybe a mental thing I need to change. There's a lot of people that have broken their legs before and still run. And to that extent, though, this campaign always reached out to me because there's the runner talking about running, and that there's a point in every runner's life that they hit the finish line and they don't stop running. They want to run for 5 miles, or they want to run for 10, or they want to do the marathon at 26. And there's a point that they're so in the zone, they're so loving what it is that they're doing, that they just keep going. And so when you're looking at your life and what it is that you want to keep or delete, you have to also identify your identity. So the thing in your life that needs to change, do you call yourself that? Is it part of your identity? And what language do you need to tell yourself in order to start switching from that? That's a whole class in itself. And so, but I wanted to tease with that a little bit because it's definitely something that we need to talk about because it's a key factor to the 4 laws of behavior change. So we just went through 4 pieces of a habit loop, and there's also 4 laws of behavior change. These are scientifically proven. What makes this really, really fun is when we have 4 laws of behavior change and 4 habit loop pieces, we can overlap them together, which is kind of fun. So what's the first one? So the 4 laws of behavior change. Somebody read them off for me.
Make it obvious.
Make
Great.
it attractive.
Perfect.
Make it
Make it
easy.
There you go. What's the last one?
Make it satisfying.
There we go. So if we jump those into the habit loop, this is what it would look like. We've got to make it obvious, which is part of the cue. So what do we want to do with the cue? We want to make the cue obvious, right?
Obvious.
There we go. Yeah. And now we have our craving. We're feeling the craving. We want to make the craving. You guys smell what the rock is cooking? Come on.
Attractive.
Attractive. That's right. And then we've got our response. Who wants to do hard things? Nobody wants to do hard things. So what do we need to do with our response? What do we do about the activity that we're going to do?
Make it easy.
Make it easy. And then in order to get rewarded, we have to make it rewarding. Make it like, what was the last slide? Make it satisfying. Make it rewarding. The reward should feel rewarding. It should feel like something that you got. So this is what we're going to spend our next half hour on, is jumping through how the habit loop works inside of the laws of behavior change. We're going to give a quick little habit hack in each of them that hopefully will help you to find an item in your life that you can change and make it easy. And then if you all need more discussion on this, I'm going to give my information at the end so you can reach out and chat about it, okay? Likewise, again, this is something I do a 4-hour workshop on in person. So if you have a business that you're involved in, you've got some coworkers, you think this would be fun to do as a 4-hour webinar or 4 hours in person if you're local, then let's do it, right? Let's have some fun with it. So first, let's make it obvious. Okay, what is that?
It's a
Something to make
guitar.
really easy. A guitar. That's right. Good, good. Some of y'all point out the chairs, and that tells me what you're thinking. But I'm glad that we found the guitar. Okay, so how many of you have ever tried to play a musical instrument, like, and decided to make learning a musical instrument something that you do? I know Shara does. Right? Shara plays them on Instagram all the time and TikTok. Great. And so if you learned to play an instrument, or you wanted to learn to play an instrument, how many of you still do? Raise your hands if you tried and still do. And then maybe do like maybe like a halfway hand if you tried and you still don't. Okay. All right. So what stopped you, Karen? What stopped you, Jethro? Why did you start and then stop?
I didn't practice
for
enough.
me,
Got busy.
Okay. Jethro got busy. Karen, what did you say?
For me, it was too time consuming, and it just felt like it was just unachievable with the time that I had to dedicate.
Yeah. Oh, that's the key piece there, right? Like, how much time is this habit going to take? Gary Keller tells a story on learning how to play guitar that talked about that, where he didn't think he had the time either. And somebody said, dude, just practice these basic chords. And after a while from practicing the basic chords, he moved on to some other things, but he was only doing it like 10, 15 minutes a day, just the basics, right? You know, Kobe Bryant had a lot to say about the basics, right? And so to that extent, okay. And Nicole said it just didn't feel very rewarding, right? Feeling became no longer desirable at a point. Lauren says, right? Absolutely. I think that feels that way too. Like sometimes the work you're putting in, at the end of it, you didn't get out of it what you wanted to get out of it. For me, and by the way, guitars was one of mine. My family tried to force me to play the piano as a kid, and there was no part of me that wanted to. I just thought playing the piano as a little boy just seemed, you know, it was my sisters play the piano. I didn't want to play the piano. So I would run away before piano lessons, like every single week. They were paying for, I feel guilty a little bit now because they definitely paid for the piano lessons, and I made sure I was not home when I was supposed to go. And then as an adult, though, like I now look and I'm like, I wish I could play an instrument. I wish I knew how to play something. So I bought a guitar. and I was doing pretty good on the guitar. And then we moved and we got into a new house, which should have made it easier because now it's a new home, it's a new routine, it's a new place and a time to change. But I did something silly with my guitar. What do you think I did with it? I packed it up, right? I put it away because we moved. And guess what I never did with it? I never unpacked it. I never pulled it back out. So all the work that I had done in like the 6 or 7 months leading up to moving, how quickly do you think that unraveled? Like really quick. Like all of a sudden, like if I was to pick up a guitar today, I'm not 100% sure I could play anything. And then like I realized at some point in time, like, hey, I haven't touched that guitar in like 2 years. And I think it was when my nephew found it buried in some closet and then gotten crushed by some other boxes. And it was like out of sight, out of mind. So this picture is a cue, by the way, to making it obvious, right? What did this person do with their guitar? Where is it? It's right there, right next to the couch. So I started looking at that and thinking, man, what else do I need to do that I know would make it easier? And like one thing was stop surfing social media at night and read a book on the couch instead of spending 10, 15 hours on Facebook and not sleeping, right? And so what I did is I moved my charger away from the couch and I put a book on my seat. So in your life, the habit that you're trying to make a change to, especially if you've already identified it on your routine, where is it that you can insert this item, this thing into your calendar in such a way that you can trap your success, set up a booby trap for your success and make it obvious? Who's got an example? Something, again, that you know you're working to change and that you could make it more obvious by booby trapping your success, just like this guitar next to the couch. Because if I had the guitar sitting in front of my seat every single night, guess what? I'd still be playing. It would be sitting on my seat. I'd have to pick it up to sit down. What do you think I'm going to do once I pick it up if I know that I'm working on a habit of learning to play the guitar? I'm going to play it, right? So I'm going to twiddle with it. Okay, great. So give me an example, something in your life that you're working to change. Yeah, putting breakfast next to your laptop. There you go. Love it. I think that's great. I'm sure that breakfast is Pop-Tarts, but I think that's great. I'm just kidding. Love it. That's awesome. That's a great way to do it. 100%. I do that, by the way, with my water cup. Is guess what? I stop drinking water if it's not full, and guess what? I stop drinking water if it's not where it needs to be. And then what I drink other stuff, right? If I carry that around with me all the time, it helps me drink more water and it helps me eat less. And so that's what I do. Every time I feel like I might be a little thirsty, I drink something, and boom, there it goes. All right, so this is what we call an intention statement, okay? And so this intent statement, I want you to also think about. There's a little study in that was done in England, and basically they took a group and they broke them into 3, and they looked at the group and they said, we want you all to exercise more. You guys said you all want to exercise more. We want you to exercise more. And so the first group, they said, okay, go exercise more. The second group, they said, okay, we're going to bring you in. We're going to give you this motivational message. We're going to teach you all the reasons why you should exercise more. And then you're going to go exercise more. So that's what they did with the second group. So out of the first and the second group, the people that just said, we're going to go exercise more, and the people that got the motivational message, which ones do you think exercised more and did a better job?
Ones who got the message.
Karen, guess what? They did the same. The people with the message and the people that got nothing, they just were told to go exercise, they had almost the same exact results. So small of a difference, it wasn't even like a % difference after the course of a month. The third group was told, where will you put this on your calendar, what time, and at what place? So they sat down with the third group and said, we're going to find that place on the calendar that you're going to do it. We're going to incorporate it into your schedule and we're going to make it fit. Again, tracking the routine, figuring out where it goes. Nicole, we're going to get into that. Yeah, I love that, Lauren. Put your clothes next to your bed when you wake up. 100%. I do that for my workout clothes every single night now. If I had to wake up and figure out what I was going to wear, it was just easier for me to lay back down in bed, right? But if my shoes were out, my shirt and my workout shorts were out. And also, I clean up the workout area, which is always clean now. But if I walked down to the workout area and it was a mess, like because the kids were in it or whatever the night before, you know, it demotivated me even before I got started. I'm like, okay, well, I'm going to take a peek at my laptop or sit down or something. And then I was asleep again on the couch downstairs or whatever. So booby trapping success again, setting yourself up before you get started. Love that. Here we go. So write your intent statement. This is a habit hack. Figure out where in your routine it's going to fit in. Okay, boom. Now we're going to make it attractive. Nicole, we will get back into that. I promise you. That's it's coming down a little ways. So now we're going to make it attractive. Food, yummy, yummy food, right? Like these are some of the weaknesses. I could eat a whole pack of Oreos if given the opportunity. Snickers really does satisfy me. But why do we desire these foods? What about them makes them desirable? We know they're not healthy for us.
They taste good though.
They taste good though. Thank you for the easy answers. I don't try to make it tough. Guess what? You can make your good habits taste good. I think this might have been in Atomic Habits too. This is in one of the 4 or 5 books that I read. But did you know that at some point in time, soap didn't get sudsy? It didn't smell good. Toothpaste didn't taste good. And they found out that when you can make soap sudsy and when you can make it smell good, more people used it. When you got the pleasant taste of mint in your mouth, more people use toothpaste. What are some things that you can do to make it attractive? And by the way, toothpaste was the cue to me not snacking anymore at night. Guess what I do after dinner if I'm ready to stop snacking? I go upstairs and I brush my teeth. It tastes good. Gives me that sweet feeling as if I got what I needed. And then guess what? It's also a cue for me to not eat anymore that night. I've already brushed my teeth, ready for bed, right? And so if that's something that you're trying to work on, like that's a good habit hack. But what else can you make taste good in your life? What are you struggling with? And you need to figure out a way, Nicole, right? It didn't work the last time I did this. I'm already frustrated by it. I don't know if I want to do it again. It's not attractive enough. What can you do to make the habit you're working to form more attractive? Anyone? Some of it's that change in identity. Sometimes it's using a stacking technique where, again, you put it into your routine in such a place that you're already giving yourself something that you crave and you enjoy the rewards on. You know, if you're somebody that loves to go get a coffee somewhere every morning, make the coffee place next to your gym. Find a gym next to your coffee place, right? Whatever it might be. If you know that you like to jump on social media each day, put the task that you need to work into your calendar, the habit, as the step before jumping onto social media. So make a rule for yourself that you can't get onto Facebook until after you've checked your email in the morning or after you've read your personal development book. So again, you know, put the charger across the room so that way I force myself to read for 20 minutes each day. You know, whatever the case may be. So again, is there a place in your routine that you can insert the new habit in front of something that you already enjoy doing? And that way the thing that you're enjoying becomes the attractive and the reward coupled together. I've never been a great flosser throughout my life, you know? And so in order to habit stack flossing, I sat the floss on top of my toothbrush, right? Like on the toothbrush holder. It was impossible for me to pick up my toothbrush without me picking up the floss. I already enjoy it. I can't go to bed without brushing my teeth. I'm sure you guys know what I'm talking about. You get that grimy feeling in your mouth. And so literally, it was harder for me to brush my teeth unless I literally had the floss in my hand. What else? Give me an example in your life. I want to be here to help you. We got 17 minutes left. Anything that you're trying to figure out how to fit into your calendar that you can make more attractive, make it easier, make it more rewarding. Okay, moving on. Don't be afraid to chime in if we need to. So that is one of our habit hacks. Here we go, making it easy. This isn't making it automatic. So there are certain things in our lives that we just shouldn't be doing, by the way. And so sometimes this is a set it and forget it type scenario. Like, how can we put it onto our calendar in such a way that we could just set it and forget it? Like, who can we give it to? How can we set up a reminder? When I have clients that are working to do certain follow-up tasks as a business coach, certain follow-up tasks either with their clients or with their employees, you know, when they're learning how to do daily check-ins, one of the first things I tell them to do is set the timer on their phone, an alarm on their phone for the time they're doing that check-in, right? As a business coach, when I sign new clients, I program it into my conference call system that the conference call system calls me. I don't have to remember to call the client, right? I don't have to remember that I've got a new time, a new client at a new place on a new day, blah, blah, blah. Like, my system calls me, so that way I don't have to create a new habit surrounding a phone call. My habit is already, I know the conference call system is going to call me. It's going to text me 5 minutes beforehand and remind me to get into a quiet place, and it's going to call me. So again, how can we booby trap your success? What can you do to remind yourself to do the right thing, to do the good thing, or to have it done for you as you're working to do this habit change? How can we help you here? What do you got that we can help make easier for you? Okay, sending emails to prospective clients. I love that. And Nicole, the answer to the other question, as far as what kept me from putting the floss aside, the answer is that I knew that I needed to do it, right? So there still needs to be a little bit of motivation and desire to change. It takes us back to the beginning, right? Do we even want to change? And the answer is yes. I needed to make sure that my gums stayed healthier. You know, my dentist told me so. And so I had the desire to change, but I needed to booby trap my success to go along with that desire. If you don't have the desire to change, by the way, true life hack, if this is something you don't really want to change, you know you should, but you don't want to, it doesn't matter what we do, you're never going to completely, fully change. Now, interesting, there is a point in your life that when you continue to do and 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 continue to do, at some point it becomes so automatic that it just becomes a part of you. And you can become that person and start to enjoy that activity, even though you didn't originally. But you have to have enough desire to at least do that thing this next time, right? That's that Ed Millett, you know, if you guys know him. I don't know if I pronounced his name right, but he wrote the book, Just One More Day, One More Time, right? Like, that's his thing. He's like, I don't have enough energy to commit to doing this for the next 50 years of my life, but I can do it now. I can do it now. And how motivating is that? Like, I don't have to do it for the next 50 years. I just have to do it now. So if you can just do it now and push that aside, then that's great. So making calls, sending emails to prospects. Lauren, I don't have it. I've got a couple of hacks for you for making calls. And as far as emails to prospects, you know, get a good CRM that does the email drip campaign for you. And so that way you can set it up and forget it, write the emails, write the basics, and then go in there. If you want to add something personal, it's already ready to go. And you just get in there and tweak it before you hit send. In regards to making calls, I used to get a accountability partner, Lauren. And so I would jump on a Zoom call with an accountability partner every morning, and we would just start calling people together, right? And so it's a lot easier for me to hide and not make calls than it is to be sitting in front of somebody that knew I was supposed to be making calls and not make calls, right? And so So every every morning, 9 a.m., 9:30 it was actually, but 9:30 a.m. is when I would start to make calls. And myself and an accountability partner would jump on a Zoom together. We could see each other, and we'd start making calls. And so, and you and I both know that once you get the first two out of the way, 2 or 3, it's easy to keep going. It's just picking up the phone that first time and actually getting started. The other thing that I did for making calls is I made it part of my process, just like you do with your clothing, and I got it ready the night before. So my assistant started giving me the list the night before. And so when the list was made for me, then it was one less thing to dilly-dally over that day, right? I already knew who I was calling. I already had the list. And I knew how many people I needed to get in touch with, and we knew what the conversion ratio was. And because we knew how many people and what the conversion ratio was, I made sure the list was long enough that I talked to the number of people I needed to talk to, because we knew the conversion ratio. So she'd give me a list of 25 because we knew 1 out of 5 would answer. And so I needed to talk to 5 people a day. She'd give me a list of 25, and within an hour I was done. And so those are some little set it and forget it's. Make sure that the list is ready for you the night before, and make sure that you've got a little timer. You don't even have to do a Zoom. Just have some people texting you. If you're going to lie, you're going to lie. But if you text your partner, your accountability partner, the moment you make that first call, or you take a picture of yourself making a call, as long as you're actually doing it, right? Take a screenshot of the first call ringing, send it to your accountability partner. You think of some other things, but what is going to create more pain in your life that if you don't do it, you're letting yourself and somebody else down? And that's a great way to think about something that's going to make it easy, right? Is like, I don't want to embarrass myself and tell somebody I didn't do something that I was going to do. Really, the only person that embarrasses me is my wife. And so in that process, I used to have my coach check in with my wife, because I had a tough time. Like, I didn't mind if I let my coach down, but I never wanted to leave my wife down. So I got permission from my wife to let my coach text her and say, "Hey, did your husband do his work today?" Right? Like, and so then she would ask me, she's like, "Did you make your calls today?" And I go, "No, baby, I didn't." And there's only 1 or 2 times that you can look at your wife and say that you didn't. And I'm going to give you another technique here in a second that somebody else I knew used. You came off of mute. Did you want to ask a question?
Hey, Jeff, yeah, I think those are all great ideas. I think I really like the idea of having the list set in advance the night before. I have found that it does make things a lot more easier to just, have whatever task you're going to have for the next day, prepared in advance the night before. So I am learning that, and I will try to inculcate making a list of who I need to reach out to the night before as well too. So thank you for that.
Yeah, love it. Perfect. Love all of that. Great. Okay, so here we go. Moving on. It's also about frequency, right? And we just talked about the more and more and more and more and more you do it, the more it's going to be a part of your life and a part of what it is that you're doing, right? So as we're looking at the frequency and the things that we're working on, this comes back to tracking and identifying things in yourself. All right, this is a longer quote. Somebody read this, and nobody read who said it at the end until you're done reading it. Jethro, you go ahead. Go ahead, bud. Read it.
It's not about sitting around and thinking about the thing. It's not about planning the thing. Who has ever built a habit dreaming about it? It's about getting out and doing the thing, and doing the thing a lot.
Oh, that's golden. Who read that, Jethro? Who's that quote from?
Mr. Jeff Kuhn.
Yeah, he's a good guy. That guy's great. Anyway, yeah. So it's about doing the thing a lot. It's literally about getting out and doing the thing a lot. The more you do the thing, the easier the thing is to do, right? We've already figured that out. And sake of time, I won't get into the story, but there's a story in the beginning of the Millionaire Real Estate Agent book that talks about this economics class that was building pots. And there's another story in some other book I read at some point that talks about this photography professor about taking a picture. And we're going to cut to the end and just say the people that took the better picture and built the better pot were the people that did it more often, not the people that studied how to make it perfect. So go out and do it more, and you're going to get better at it. It's going to become a better habit. Another little short life hack is the 2-minute rule. So we're going to throw this one in real quick for you to learn, and that is figure out how to get it done in less than 2 minutes initially. I think it's Atomic Habits that actually throws the idea that in the beginning, if you're trying to work out, just go to the gym. You don't have to work out. Just show up at the gym every day until you're like, man, I'm already here. I should do a little workout. And then don't go hard. Anybody here ever decide I'm going to go run for 5 miles a day every day? And then you jump out and run 5 miles after having never run 5 miles like in the past year. The next day you can't run 5 miles again, right? Like, it's like, this is impossible. This is not going to happen. I'm too sore. And then all of a sudden your habit's over before you started it. So how can you hack the rule? Like I just mentioned, one phone call, or when you're trying to get your lead gen done, just call one. And after you call one, a couple might happen again. But if you sit there for 4 hours or 8 hours on the phone trying to get your lead gen done, and it's not something that you're used to, you're going to dread it by the next day, right? Start with something reasonable that you can bite off and chew until the habit is formed, and then grow it as you need to. Okay, now we're into the final stretch here with Make It Rewarding. This is the 77-day habit challenge I mentioned to you. Okay, so one of the things, again, we have to be able to forgive ourselves. In the 66-day challenge, you get no forgiveness. We know it takes 66 days to form a habit. But we also found out that if you're super unflexible in building a habit, that often you never, ever build the habit. You've got to be able to be forgiving with yourself. These are all new circuits we're trying to wire. So with that, I realized that 77 days, if you miss a day a week, or give yourself forgiveness on a day a week, that 77 days basically takes you 12 weeks, giving yourself forgiveness on a day a week. But if something happens and you're not able to do it that day, you don't have to start from scratch. We're still working here to form a new habit. Okay? And so as you're going through this checklist, like as you complete it, you're just Xing off the days when you hit them, right? And then if you get to a place where you miss it, then guess what? Just put a little big circle and X through it, right? Like I didn't hit it that day, and that's going to be okay. And then we move on to the next days, and we continue to make the X marks. We also want to have a backup, Nicole, for your intent statement. So somebody that says to themselves, I'm going to work out every morning, and says, I'm going to work out at 5:30 a.m. on the way to work every morning because I'm going to change my gym to be right by my work. So that way I can work out every morning on the way to work. And then they get a flat tire that day, and it takes up that extra half hour that they were giving to themselves for work. Like that could be really discouraging, especially if that puts their car out of commission for a couple of days because they didn't have a spare or something, right? And so what's the backup plan? What's the backup plan to go along with your forgiveness, right? And so in that area is like, in that case, this guy had a backup plan for after he would work out with his wife after work, a client of mine that this actually happened to. So we created the backup plan because his brain kept throwing obstacles into the way, and obstacles are just our own personal excuses to not get the habit formed, right? Anytime you're trying to make a change for the better, you fight yourself. It's so much easier for me to sit on the couch and do nothing than it is for me to get up and go form a new habit, right? So how do I create obstacles? How do I get past the obstacles? How do I create a backup plan in order to do this? So somebody asked about making something more rewarding, and this is another way. So I mentioned my coach would have me, I had my coach holding me accountable through my wife. She wasn't very happy about that at first, by the way. She didn't think it was her job to tell me to do my job. And we figured it out. And that's okay. This is another client. This was not my client. And she decided that the reward for hitting her sales numbers by doing her lead gen was going to be to go to Disneyland with her children, her Disney World with her children. And so she took a map of Disney World and she printed it out in black and white, and then she cut it up like a puzzle. And every week that she completed her lead generation tasks and her appointment tasks, is her kids were allowed to color in a new piece of the puzzle and put it onto the fridge. And they knew, because again, conversion rates, that once they hit that number, mommy would have made enough money and they all could go to Disney World together. And so her reward, and also fierce accountability, by the way, was at the end of the week, she had to tell her kids whether or not she had done the work to get the appointments she needed in order for them to be successful in this. Fierce accountability. Whew. makes my heart pitter patter just thinking about having to tell my daughter no about that, right? Like that wouldn't make me happy. And a great way to make something be very rewarding. So what's a bad reward? If I am trying to lose weight and eat healthier as a habit, what do you think a bad reward might be?
Cheat day.
A cheat day, right? Oh my golly, by the way, I joined a group and I stopped. The group did amazing things except for that. They gave you a cheat meal every week. And guess what happens when I eat a cheat meal every single week? Like I continue to crave the cheat, right? Like it's like, oh man, I can't wait till I get that dessert. And then once I'm done that cycle of health, now I'm right back into my cheat food, and because I never actually gave it up, right? I didn't give up the Doritos, I just postponed them till Saturday, right? And so that's a great point, right? Like we don't reward ourselves for eating healthy by eating unhealthy. Thank you, Karen. So simple thought though, and we can reward ourselves with other good things. Like we don't reward ourselves for not shopping on Amazon by giving us a shopping day on Amazon, right? So if the reward doesn't support your new habit, you need it, or seems to be a bad habit, you should find another reward. I could reward myself with a great new jacket or some new shoes or something if the habit was food, right? So think about that. All right. So often the simple thought of the reward's not enough. Believe it or not, there are other activities that can happen that would help you feel rewarded. So those are the two tools. If you didn't get either of these two tools, throw it into the chat that you want these two tools sent to you, and Shara will send them. Shara, I know you don't have the one yet, so I'm gonna have to send it to you, I think, right? Okay. And she'll get you the other one. Meanwhile, this is my information and number, and sign up for next month's August class, Building Accountability, How to Maximize Productivity and Results. And if you had to go to a mastermind on one of these topics, do unicorns exist? To set up new hires for winning, team accountability, or breaking your team goals consistently, which one would you come to? Throw the number in the chat. Number 2. Okay, number 2. All right. Well, here's the benefit. Shar and I lead a class every Tuesday mornings right now. The next class is actually on finding your unicorn. And then we're going to get into the very one after that is setting up new hires to win. So if you can't make it next Tuesday, put down Tuesday, what day is that? 2 Tuesdays from now, onto your calendar, and we'll talk about setting up new hires to win and team accountability the week after that. Next 4 sessions right there on the board, and to figure out which Tuesday that goes with, and join us for our leadership mastermind. Copy me down, email me here. I'm happy to jump on the phone with you and talk about what it is that you're going through an obstacle on, and see if we can come up with some one-on-one advice or hack for you. Thank you all then. Thank you so much for your time. Really appreciate it. Go kill the rest of the week.